You're wearing Saints paraphernalia. I'm wearing Saints gear. So who do the Saints take at number 9? And I'm going to tell you what, it ain't Shedeur Sanders, like Mel Kiper says. His 4.0, once it becomes a 5.0, you might not see that name right next to the New Orleans Saints. I have had Arizona wideout Teteroy McMillan going to the New Orleans Saints at number 9. Last year, if you go back to my first 2 mock drafts of 2024, I had the New Orleans Saints taking defensive end Jared Verse out of Florida State, which would have been the single best pick of that first round at number 14. Let me say that. The defensive rookie of the year would have been the single best. We got a really good gem, but Jared Verse would have been better. Easily. He would have been a better pick.
Yeah.
This year, I'm doing the exact same thing. My first 2 mock drafts have swayed you the wrong way because now my first 2, I get to have fun. I get to kind of research a little bit and say, look, this is who I want them to pick. But now I have to really think like Mickey Loomis, which is about half of my brain, and decide who I think the New Orleans Saints will draft. And it will not be a wideout. You signed Brandon Cooks, the person you drafted in 2014, who is now 30-plus years of age, to be your wide receiver number 2, to like a $13 million deal for 2 years. You're paying him $6.5 million for a wide receiver. I don't get it. Whatever. The New Orleans Saints are going to New Orleans Saints. But at this point in my mock drafts, the more research I do, you're not going to draft a wide receiver at 9. It just, as much as I'd love to see where Chris Olave is going to end up going, you're not going to. But if Brandon Cooks ends up being your wide receiver number 1, you're not going to make it anyways. You weren't going to make it at the beginning of the season anyways. The way Mickey Loomis did his contracts, if you would have said, hey, we're going to rebuild, I would have more faith in you. But no, you said, hey, we're going to compete, and you just kept pushing them contracts back, and you keep digging your hole deeper than it already was. We were this close to filling it up. But now, Mickey Loomis, you've dug yourself. You frankly dug your grave because New Orleans Saints fans are going to be coming for your head. We're ruining the young talent we have at our coaching staff because of the horrible roster additions Mickey Loomis has been making. But let's see, Ty, if me and you can make it a little bit better. Now, we are going to go defensive end at number 9. Excuse me, we were 14 last year. Number 9, we're going to defensive end. I called the tackle at the 3.0 last year. We went tackle. We're going in this time. So, I'm going to let you discuss what you think we should go at edge, who you like, who is going to be available at number 9. Let's keep that clear. Because someone like Abdul Carter is probably not going to be there. So, who do you like in the edge position? Who do you want to become a New Orleans Saint? And who do you think the New Orleans Saints are actually going to draft at 9? Take it away, Ty.
I would say at pick 9, right, the Saints are going to have free will on whoever they want to take at edge. If we think they're going to go edge, I think they're going to have free will outside of Abdul Carter. He should be taken before us. If he's not, good golly, take Abdul Carter. You got to win at pick 9. But assuming that he's going to get picked ahead of us, the Saints will have free will for whoever they want to pick, minus him. I really like James Pierce. I haven't watched as much of like the, pro day stuff and things like that, but, I watch a lot of college football. What he did this year was absolutely impressive. I mean, he was huge to the Tennessee defensive line. And I really, really liked him. I like Nick Scorton a lot. I liked him a lot at Texas A&M. I think he could be. Those two are really good, and then also, Michael Williams is also an interesting guy. There. Georgia defensive linemen have fared pretty well the past couple of years, and when they've been taken in the first round. And so, I think you wouldn't be stupid to take Michael Williams at all. He might not be graded as high as maybe Pierce is, or maybe Mike Green is also somebody to talk about from Marshall. Shamar Stewart, another A&M edge. So it wouldn't be stupid to take Michael Williams, especially with the success that Georgia defensive linemen and defensive players really have had in the NFL over the past couple of years. They're just a great program, other than the speeding problems over there in Athens. But Kirby Smart knows how to develop defensive guys, and his staff over there knows how to develop defensive guys for the next level. Not just that, and they can win championships too. So, I would like us to go either Pierce or either Michael Williams. That is who I want us to draft at pick number 9. Obviously, if Abdul Carter's not available, I want Pierce or I want Michael Williams. I think those two are more than ready to play in the NFL. With the Saints, I think you'd be dumb not to take an edge right here. You just signed Chase Young to that deal, and I'm not sure the exact numbers on it, but I know Connor and I thought it was kind of stupid, the amount of money we gave him for kind of a underwhelming year last year. And then, Cam Jordan going to retire soon, right? So and his production has declined slowly. So you're going to need an edge. I think you have to draft edge here. In my opinion, I think you go Pierce or I think you go Michael Williams.
That's your final answer.
Yeah. Did you want a specific player? Or
No, that's fine. What
fine?
you just told me is perfectly fine, because I'm going to get real specific enough.
You go ahead.
Abdul Carter would be great. If we could take him at number 9, man, I'd be jumping off the roof. I would
too. I'd be jumping up and down
ecstatic.
In Green Bay.
I would pass out,
I'll be there.
But I wouldn't throw up. So this is the deal. James Pierce Jr. is your best case scenario. That's who I think is your number 2, if he's there. If you look at my past 2 mock drafts, I have him going just above us to number 8.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets to the point where these teams, this edge class is deep. If it gets to the point where these teams in the top 10 think, hey, we'll get an edge later on, and they don't draft one, that'll be money for the New Orleans Saints. I'm telling you what, because once you get past those 2, you got some interesting prospects. Michael Williams is up there. Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. I like Mike Green a lot. What he did in college, I like him a lot. He was at the Senior Bowl, stepped on the field, took a breath, won every single battle he went against, and stepped off the field. And he was done for the whole week. Didn't play in the game, didn't have to.
That's why he's graded so high.
That's why he's so. I would not be upset. Now, if you look at the mock, to be fair, colleges do have kind of an influence where these guys went to school. Obviously, you're taking a guy from Tennessee or Georgia. Those are SEC schools, these big defensive players. You're going to take a chance because you say, hey, it worked out for these guys in the NFL. It might work out for us. This is what the New Orleans Saints are thinking, Ty. They're not going James Pierce Jr. because he probably won't be there. If he is, grab him. They're probably not going to go Michael Williams because I think the guy they're going to draft is a better prospect. They're not going to go Nick Scorton because he's not even the best on his team. And they're not going to go to Mike Green because of the college he went to. Let's think like Mickey Loomis for a second. Not that I agree with this pick. I'm going to tell you who the New Orleans Saints are going to draft. Mel Kiper, when it comes to mock drafts, I don't necessarily agree with what he has to say. I watch him a little bit, but I love his prospects. The way he does prospects, Mel Kiper, he's the guy to listen to. He takes the cake. Field Yates is his successor, just about. They always come together and make their mock drafts. But I agree with what Field Yates said about number 9. We're taking an edge, Ty. Earlier, I said Nick Scorton wasn't the best on his team. He was, but not anymore. You have a guy named Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M Aggie. You didn't know I was going to go this. I told you said his name before the show, and you didn't actually say his name. Shamar Stewart will be drafted to the New Orleans Saints. This might be the biggest project edge in the first round. But the Saints are known for taking swings and risk when it comes to edges in the draft. let's look back at some other draft years. But before I do that, in 3 years with Texas A&M, this is Shamar Stewart. The biggest knock on him is his production. Is he going to be able to produce at the next level? Because he just didn't do that in college. 65 total tackles, 4 passes defended, 4.5 sacks, and 12 tackles for loss. That is what he did in 3 years at A&M.
Yeah.
You look at that and you're like, well, dang,
very good.
those are kind of interior lineman stats because that's what he played a lot. When you have Nick Scorton on the outside, you tend to shift inside. That's what Shamar Stewart played a lot. They ended up trying him a lot at edge this year, and that's what people are looking at, Shamar Stewart as an edge, because this is where he had the most success. Let's look back at who the Saints drafted in the first round not too long ago in our lifetime, Ty. 2021. You know who we drafted then? Does that ring a bell? Peyton Turner out of Houston.
Yeah.
What did Peyton Turner do in 4 years in New Orleans? Only came up 5 sacks. Okay. Marcus Davenport, 2018.
Yeah,
biggest risk you probably could talk about. UTSA, that's where he came from. Averaged 4.5 sacks, not even 4.3 in 5 years with the Saints. Okay. You talk about these guys. You are drafting these guys as edges. Ty, what did these two guys play more of in New Orleans?
Well, they played more inside.
They played more inside, correct. If you are going to draft an edge like Shamar Stewart and you have the chance to play him on the inside, which you will probably do because of your recent history, we have Cameron Jordan, and you know they love Cameron Jordan. They're going to keep him. You just signed Chase Young. Where does that leave someone like Shamar Stewart? Shamar Stewart is a successor. He's the guy that's going to come up when Cameron Jordan's gone, when some of these guys are gone. But if you want a guy that you're going to put interior like you did with Peyton Turner, like you did with Marcus Davenport, Shamar Stewart is your guy. Now you look at him and you say, okay, Shamar Stewart's a little heavier. Per ESPN in the NFL Combine, Shamar Stewart ranked in at 290 pounds. Peyton Turner was 270 and Davenport was 265. You have a little bit of a heavier guy. But this is the deal. If you decide, should you decide, we're going to try him a little bit at interior, what he did in college a lot of. I don't think that's a bad move. The New Orleans Saints, I'm telling you right now, is looking all over Shamar Stewart. Big project player. Big risk. Well, what'd you do in the years prior? You took big risks. You took those swings. You took guys that didn't go to an SEC school. I'm telling you there's bias when these teams go into draft. I know there's that SEC bias, regardless of what people like to say. Shamar Stewart has the New Orleans Saints written all over him. And I'm telling you, if I'm thinking like Mickey Loomis, if I'm thinking like the New Orleans Saints, you're going to draft a guy like Shamar Stewart. Was that a compelling enough argument for you, Ty?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he does have, he's got the experience inside. What do the Saints have inside other than Brian Brzee? Got nobody.
Exactly.
You got nobody. So, I mean, they could do that. Do I think they will? But you've had really a good – but, hey, you've had good success with your mock drafts recently, and last year you had good success with your mock drafts. So I do trust you when it comes, to evaluating how NFL front offices will think when it comes draft time. You make a good point for that, and I think he could. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, it's just he shot up the draft board, right?
Shot up, but like a freaking rocket.
I don't understand. Just. There's no production behind him in college for me to be able to back that enough. And for me as a Saints fan, when I'm standing there in Green Bay watching the draft, in 2 weeks, the draft's in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks about 2 weeks. When I'm standing there and if I hear Shamar Stewart and if James Pierce is available or even if Mykel Williams is available, I'm probably not going to be as happy just because in the back of my head, I just don't understand. As a Saints fan, I don't understand why you would draft a project guy when you need immediate help, right? Because Cam Jordan is probably going to retire next year, but he's more liable to get injured. I had trouble saying that. More liable to get injured. I think you need immediate help right there. He would and Michael Williams or Pierce would be immediate help behind, and if not, maybe they start over Cam Jordan or something like that. But I think they would be more of a help immediately than Shamar Stewart would be. But you bring up a good point. Can't just think like fans, right? Got to think, especially with you doing your own mock draft. Got to think about, got to think about what the NFL or the Saints front office will do. I think you make a good point for it, and I can see why they would do that. So I don't mind that pick, but going back and tying into it, and I want to hear your thoughts on that too. As a Saints fan, how would you feel if we drafted Shamar Stewart? Take all of your mock draft stuff aside and what you're doing and trying to be as correct as possible stuff aside. As a New Orleans Saints fan, how would you feel if we drafted Shamar Stewart at 9? Seeing that we'll just say in this instance that Pierce and every other defensive edge is on this board except for forgetting his name now, Abdul Carter. How would you feel as a Saints fan if we drafted Shamar Stewart?
I'm going to be frank. It would scare me 100% because for me, I know there are better options out there. But if I'm really thinking like the New Orleans Saints and I'm looking at these other edges and I'm like, look, they're not going to play anyways at the edge position. I might as well not draft them. If I'm going to have somebody take reps inside, like a Shamar Stewart, maybe like a Mike Green, that's who I'm going to draft. Somebody that can get experience on the inside, then shift their way to the out. Somebody like Aaron Donald, one of the most versatile D linemen we've seen in history. Dude could play it all on the D line. It didn't matter where he was. Dude was still going to find production.
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones. Prime example. There are projects, players, and prospects that maybe you want to turn into some of these guys to be these versatile players. If you have another Cameron Jordan, as good as Cameron Jordan has been, he wasn't always the answer. You had somebody like Trey Hendrickson in New Orleans, and you didn't keep him because you thought Cam Jordan was the answer. And then it ends up we don't have the depth to sustain a defense in New Orleans. If you are going to draft a guy to take interior reps, to eventually shift outside until you find that replacement, I think it's a fantastic idea to draft someone like Shamar Stewart or Mike Green. As a fan, it would scare me to hear Shamar Stewart's name that high. But if they could give me an argument like I'm giving you right now, and they could tell me, look, we're drafting him because of this. I had to take my time with Fuaga. It wasn't an immediate satisfaction with Fuaga last year when I heard his name called. It scared me a little bit because I knew Jared Verse was still there. In this situation, it might be a little bit scarier because now there are several options to go. I like the wide receiver route. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go edge. And if your idea for an edge is to teach him to be versatile to where you have depth on all areas of the D-line, great. So be it. Draft the guy who you think fits that idea and that narrative the best. If it's Shamar Stewart, draft him. If it's Mike Green, draft him because these guys aren't falling out the first round. These guys, as good as this edge class is, a lot of people are looking at them too. Draft the guy that fits your agenda the best and bring him to New Orleans.